Hi guys, today we're going to be doing another full face first impressions. This time around it is all about new high-end products. I will link to my recent drugstore version down below. A lot of these are new products to the market. Some of them are products that are new to me, and then there's a couple products that I threw in here that I have been testing out for the past couple weeks, but they are pretty new and you haven't really seen me use them. So I've got the Pastel Goth palette, I've got some YSL, Makeup Forever, the new Clinique Mix in Drops. I'm telling you, man, drops. It's 2017, year of the drops. So let's go ahead and get started. So to prep my skin today, I'm using two new products from Makeup Forever's HD line. The first is the Ultra HD Skin Booster, and this is meant to hydrate and plump your skin. It is a serum. It's got hyaluronic acid in there. It feels really soft and smooth on the skin, but what I like about it as someone with oily skin is that it doesn't feel heavy and it seems to set on your skin very fast. It doesn't take a long time to absorb. So if you're looking to add something in to your makeup routine or skincare routine that isn't going to be a whole process, this is really nice. And then also the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Lip Booster. This also has hyaluronic acid in here. I'm using the one that's a little bit tinted. There's also a clear one, and this is just a beautiful base. Feels really hydrating on the lips. You can use it on its own. I like to use it for makeup prep. You can keep it in your bag, but it also acts as a nice base under a liquid lipstick. So put it on before you put on the rest of your makeup, then kind of dab it off a little bit and put on your liquid lipstick over it, and it's just going to lock in a little bit of that moisture and make it a little bit easier and more comfortable to wear. Moving on to primer, today I used the Urban Decay De-Slick Complexion Primer. This is meant to help control shine, minimize pores, and mattify. Oh baby, does this stuff ever mattify. I mentioned this on Snapchat a little while ago, and the first time I used this, I slathered it all over my face. I was like, mattify me, let's do this. And I ended up with such a white cast, so much so that it was like poking through my foundation. I had like dry patches on my skin, and I have incredibly oily skin, so I was like, okay, you're not playing around. So the next time I used it in a much smaller dose, and the same could be said for today. I just put like the tiniest drop, patted it on my skin. I don't feel like rubbing it in is good because it can get kind of like, it doesn't necessarily ball up on me. I know some people have had that problem, but it more just doesn't play nice when you rub it into your skin. So if you do not have incredibly oily skin, don't even go near it. But if you're an oil slick, you may want to try it. Remember, if you purchase it from like Shoppers Drug Mart, Sephora, Ulta, you can return it if it does not work out for you within like 30 days or something like that. Moving on to complexion products, I put to use brand new from Clinique. These are the BIY, which stands for Blend It Yourself Pigment Drops, and I mix those in with this new serum from Shiseido. It is their Ibuki Smart Filtering Smoother, and this is just meant to help smooth your pores, so it could kind of act as like, it's like a serum and a primer in one. It's supposed to help mattify and smooth your skin. So this product is not supposed to be used on its own. It's supposed to be mixed in with a moisturizer or a serum or something of the sort. You get 0.34 fluid ounces in here, so that is not much product at all. So I really need to test this out a little bit more. Let me know if you'd like to see an oily skin diaries on it. I'm wearing this in the shade 145, and it looks really pink. I kept looking at the viewfinder. I'm sorry if that's annoying, but I was trying to see if it was translating properly on camera, because it definitely looked more pale and pink from what I can see on my viewfinder in the camera as opposed to what it looked like here, but it definitely had a little bit more of a pink undertone, so I may need to go a shade up. And I am a lot more tan and kind of golden and yellow right now because I did go on vacation a few weeks ago, so I am going to need to try this out a little bit more. This is like such a tiny package, so beware of that, but I will have to report back. For concealer today, I put to use the new NARS Soft Matte Concealer. I'm wearing mine in the shade Medium to Ginger, which is the shade that I wore in the Creamy Radiant Concealer, which I absolutely love. I've just basically run out of that. I think I'm going to pick up another one during the Sephora VIB sale because I think that it's amazing. It's one of my favorite concealers ever, incredibly expensive, but I do plan on repurchasing it, which means I really like it. And I think I really love this too. I used it under my eyes, and it's true. It's a completely soft matte concealer. I definitely want to put it to use with on my kind of acne spots. I've got some darker shades, but I do really like it under the eyes as well. I think that if you have dry under eyes, it may be too matte for you, but I also don't find that it's matte or drying. It almost has like a, I don't want to say a thick mousse, but it's kind of somewhere in between a cream and a mousse, if that makes sense. But the texture on it is really unique. I've never used a concealer like this. It doesn't feel too stiff, it's not too creamy, and it has great coverage as well. To set my under eye, I made use of the Makeup Forever Micro Finishing Powder. This comes in 3 different shades. The one that I have is number 2, which is the yellow. And these powders, there's like a translucent, a yellow, and a peach. I almost kind of want to get the peach to use all over my face because that's what they're for. They're kind of like a finishing powder. So if you have quite a yellow undertone but you're a little bit more fair, you could totally make use of this one, or the translucent all over your face. For me, I wanted to just try this one under my eyes. Incredibly finely milled, as to be expected from Makeup Forever. They make beautiful, soft powders. I really like this. I feel like it lasts a nice while under the eyes. I've been using it for about 2 weeks now and kind of testing it out in comparison to other products, and it's just beautiful. I was going to use another powder to set my face that was like a translucent powder, but because I felt like I lost so much of the warmth in my skin, I figured I'd reach for something a little bit warmer. So I tried the Dermablend Intense Powder Camo in the shade Honey. And I love the smooth liquid camo. I've reviewed that before. I definitely want to try this on its own as a powder foundation. I've had it for a little while and I've been waiting for like a full face first impressions. Now that this is a trend, like I'm like, oh, I can't try it because I've got to save it until I have a whole full face. So I was really excited to get to break this out. It is quite powdery. I got quite a bit of powder kick up, but that doesn't bother me so much. It does bother me in the sense that I may run through it a little bit faster than I'd like, but it was beautiful. It had really nice coverage, as to be expected. I mean, when Dermablend says medium coverage, they really mean like full coverage. They do not play around, but I will have to put this to the test to see how it holds up on my oily skin. To bronze, I used this, which is the Clarins contouring palette, and I was expecting to try this and then be like, it didn't work, and try another bronzer, but I was really pleasantly surprised. A lot of the time, Clarins products can end up being geared towards lighter skin tones. The shade ranges aren't that big, super annoying, but this actually worked. I was like, finally, the bronzer is nice and warm, but by no means is it orange. It showed up on my skin. It blended beautifully. It's a little bit powdery. So now I'm excited to try the rest of this because I can totally see myself traveling with this. A nice powder to set the under eye, kind of like a mauvey neutral blush. No shimmer in this at all. It comes in a really nice gold compact, which I've got my grubby fingerprints all over already, but so far I'm really impressed with this. This video is probably going to end up being a little bit long. I mean, you know more than I do right now in present time. So I'm trying not to chat too much about each product and blabber on and on and on, because I know that you don't have all the time in the world to sit here and listen to me. So if there's anything you'd like to hear more about, just let me know down below and I'll include it in another video, favorites, a roundup, whatever it may be. This product is another item that surprised me. It is the Charlotte Tilbury Brow Lift, and this one is in the shade Rita. And I was like, oh, I swatched it and I was like, first of all, it's so hard. Second of all, it's really, really cool toned, but like kind of a gray brown cool tone. And I was like, this isn't gonna work. Wow, I love this. It's so nice. First of all, the spoolie is great. A good spoolie is just like so satisfying. Like any spoolie will work, but when you can find a good spoolie, you're like, that's good. It's satisfying to get like brushing through those brows. It has kind of like a triangle tip on it. This is very similar to the Makeup Forever Pro Sculpt. It's got the triangle tip on it, and then it also has like, which I didn't realize because I was like, is this falling apart as I'm using it, Charlotte? But actually it's got a little brow highlight in there. But before we get to that, it has a very, very stiff, waxy texture. So very hard to overdo, and I think that that is really nice because it ends up giving you a more natural brow. You kind of have to, I wouldn't say work harder, but you're just not going to get a ton of product coming out at once, which I don't mind because it leads to less mistakes, a more natural brow, and I loved the result, and I ended up loving the color too. But what I loved the most about this is the little brow highlight that comes in there. Normally that's not the kind of product I'd reach for. I'd be like, that's cute, whatever. It's not going to sell me on a product, but it's gorgeous. I want to try putting it on my cheekbones, on my inner corner, but I had other products that I wanted to try, so I didn't. But even just putting it on my brow, like, you know, when you apply a good highlight, you're like, ooh, damn, like that's good, like that's some good shit. Like this, woo, love it. Like I think I just got chills, honestly. Like I'm not being dramatic. Like it was great. Pleased, so pleased with this. And then moving on to, you're like, Samantha, shut up, like you didn't get chills from a brow highlight. But anyways, the Charlotte Tilbury Legendary Brows. This one is in the shade Supermodel, and it comes with the tiniest brush, which I so appreciate. I'd rather a tiny, tiny brush over like the big honkin' like toothbrushes that some companies give you. And they're like, hey, brush out your brows with this. And you're like, dude, how big do you think my brows are? So this is really, really nice. You can get in there super precise. Really brushes through the brows, even though it barely there's anything to it, but like you really can get in there, brush through the brows. And I really, really like this as well. I'm not totally sure on the hold. Doesn't feel like it has a ton of hold, but it does have a really, really gorgeous formula, so it's something I'm gonna need to test out a little bit more. Moving on to eyeshadow primer. Of course, I cannot speak to you about the wear because I've had this look on for like 30 minutes, but the Arbonne Prime and Proper Eye Makeup Primer feels really good. I put it on. It doesn't have a ton of color. It kind of goes on creamy, but then you blend it out. It does have a little bit of color to it, but what I liked about it was that it felt like it really was gonna like grip the eyeshadows and they weren't going to go anywhere. Again, I'm going to have to test it out a little bit more. These are just a bunch of first impressions, but I have high hopes for this. As someone with oily eyelids, I do not have many eye primers that I can truly trust to help my eyeshadows last all day. This one feels really, really good, but it wasn't sticky to the point where I couldn't blend out my eyeshadows over it. I didn't even put down like a cream colored base over it or anything like that. I kind of forgot, honestly. But I did really, really, really like the way that this felt. It really felt like it was going to make my eyeshadows secured and locked in place. So for my eye look, I started off with the Clarins contouring palette again. That's always like, if you're using a palette that doesn't have like a nice matte brown in there, and if you're already using a bronzer, you can just reach for that instead of having to reach for another eyeshadow palette. Makes life so much easier. It's something that I do all the time. Even when I'm not wearing eyeshadow, sometimes I'll just run my bronzer through the crease to help add some definition and like, you know, make me look slightly more put together. So then I reached for this guy, which I have been so excited to try. Pastels are not something that I often reach for, but because this palette is not like a true super light pastel palette, I was like, okay, these are some shades that I can get down with. Have I said what it is? It's the Kat Von D Pastel Goth palette. So these are like really beautiful amped up colors that have been put through with like a wash of white, but not to the point where they're going to be like super chalky. Kat Von D does powders amazingly, and I think that this is a great palette. I only used 3 of the shades out of here, so I can't totally tell you. I was actually only going to use 2, and then I was like, Samantha, come on, get it together, amp it up, let's do something. So I started off with the shade Clementine, which actually was a lot more impactful than I thought. I was kind of like, I wish it was slightly more orange for my skin tone, but it really did translate nicely on my skin. And then I went in with the shade Star, which I cannot resist a yellow eyeshadow. It is just my favorite, and I thought this was really nice too. I didn't even have a white base. I didn't use a really, really dense brush. I didn't even pack it on with my finger at first, and I thought it performed really well. And then because I was like, this doesn't really seem that exciting, like I'm not getting the most out of this palette, I decided to reach for the shade Doom or Boom? Boom? Doom, the blue here. So first I put a Makeup Forever Aqua Liner just in my waterline along with kind of on my lower lash line to give it something to stick to, and then I put this on my lower lash line. This shade is gorgeous, just like in the Mi Vida Loca palette. The blue in that was gorgeous as well, and I just think that the colors in here are super fun. The downfall, of course, is this is not a palette that you can like take and really only use. I mean, you can, but for me personally, I need like a matte brown. I need like a few transitions and things just to make it slightly more wearable and to make it kind of blend in to my skin tone. To further intensify this look, I used one of the Makeup Forever Starlet powders. I think that these are beautiful. This one is in the shade 02, and it looks white, but it has the strongest gold reflect in there. So you'll see in the pot it looks super white, and then on the lid there's like a gold, almost so much so that it's leaning green, but not too much green because I'm actually wearing it on my cheeks, but we'll get to that. I think that this is beautiful. At first I put it on my eyelids and I was like, oh no, I messed it up. And then after I blended it out a little bit, I thought it looked really good and really kind of complemented that yellow shade quite well. Packed it in on my inner corners, and I just sprayed my brush with the Urban Decay B6 priming spray, and that helped to amp it up and let it stick a little bit. I probably used a little too much product because I did get a little bit of fallout and totally should have done my eyes first. I didn't think that through, but even with the Kat Von D shadows, I didn't have any fallout on my eyes in application. There's some fallout in the pan, but otherwise they performed really well along with this guy. For my eyeliner today, I made use of this one from YSL. It is the Shocking Eyeliner Effect Faux Seals. It's French, I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. But this is so incredibly black. I'm blown away by it. It has a felt tip pen that comes to a really nice point. It is very firm, so I'm more used to like a Kat Von D liner that kind of like glides with your eyes and it kind of like goes with the curve a little bit, but this doesn't have that same flexibility, so kind of a personal preference thing. But there is tons of color in there. By no means do you need to go over and do 2 layers. It is so pigmented and so black. I wouldn't say it's 100% matte, it's like 85% there, and I do really like it. I did kind of overdo it on this eye a little bit because eyeliner is my arch nemesis. Someday I will figure it out, so I had to go and amp this one up. But if you're looking for like a super black liner, this one is really good. I am interested to see how long it's going to last, because for like an expensive item, for something that you're going to be purchasing every couple months, you really do want it to last a little bit longer on your eyes and in the tube. I also made use of the YSL mascara. This is also the Faux Seals mascara, and this like has a little bit of weight to it. Like, you can tell that this is some fancy stuff. The YSL Vinyl Couture mascara was one of my all-time favorite mascaras ever. It was out for like 3 months and then they pulled it from the shelves like masochists. I was like, no, I actually would have paid like $35 or $40 for that. Like, probably good that they took it away, because I would have paid $35 or $40 for it. So I was really curious to see how this worked, and it's beautiful. Moving back to my face, on my nose contour today, I used the Light Glow Dark Earthy Blush number 11 from Burberry. I don't think that this is meant to be a blush. You know how companies do that sometimes? They call one thing and they don't really mean it. I really feel like this is meant to be more as a contour. I did want to use this on my face today because I wanted to test something out. So I thought that I would try this on my nose, and I really like it. I thought it added nice definition. I'm curious to see how it works on my cheeks, because I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like I can use a lighter powder as my nose contour, or a lighter powder on my nose contour than I can as my cheek contour. I need something a little bit deeper for my cheek, because for some reason my cheek just ends up looking muddy or ashy if I reach for anything too ashy and kind of like this kind of shade. But I did really like this super soft powder, really blendable, not too much pigmentation in there, but it does have a very strong scent, so that is something to keep in mind. But so far I really like it. For my face contour today, I put to use the Rodial Instaglam Compact in the shade. This is a contouring powder in dark, and this I also wasn't sure about the shade, but I really like the way it looks on my cheeks. It is nice, smooth, finely milled powder, a little bit of powder kick up, but I don't care about that. I don't care, but I want to mention it just in case you care. I used it with my NARS eye tip brush, and it added a lot of definition. It's not muddy looking on my cheeks. It blended really nicely, and I'm so glad to have another contour powder in the roster, because it can be so hard sometimes. For blush today, I put to use the Paul & Joe Gel Blush in the shade 003, and this in the pan, it looked like it was going to be a nice neutral blush for me, but then when I put it on my cheeks, I was like, huh? It looked like a really light shade, but this is so weird. The texture on it, it's called a gel blush. It kind of reminds me of a ColourPop blush if you soaked it in water. Like, when you touch it, it's got, like, it makes a noise, you know what I mean? Like, it makes like a noise like it's wet. So this may be really nice for a no makeup day if you're wearing like really light makeup. Today I'm obviously not doing either of those things, and the shade is not great for me, so I will play around with it with like a bit of a lighter makeup look, because maybe it'll just add like a nice fresh glow to the skin. I would like to try it in a deeper shade, but it just didn't really work out. So I thought I would try out this Glow Minerals blush in the shade Papaya. I just got this recently. This is so small, it looks so cute, but I do really like this shade. It's the kind of shade that I see myself reaching for every day. Powder blush with no shimmer in there, no glitter, a little bit of a satin finish perhaps, but it's just kind of one of those perfect peachy neutral shades that I know I'm going to be reaching for a lot. For my highlight, I used the Makeup Forever Starlet powder that I used on my eyes. These are super versatile. There's no glitter in here, but as a highlight, they are incredibly intense. So if you're looking for like a super nice, like natural highlight, this is not it. But if you want to glow like crazy, this is your best friend. It is beautiful, super versatile. I've actually talked to a few of my like beauty friends, and they've mentioned adding it to like a spray bottle, and they'll spray it all over their faces, on their body. They're gorgeous. So you can technically go in with like a little bit of a lighter hand. You'll see that I used my Morphe highlighting brush, but I really did want to amp it up, so I went in with a more dense brush and really packed it on my cheeks. Of course, I blended it out from there. I do think that it's beautiful. They have a whole bunch of shades. They've got another white one like this that reflects pink that may look better if you have a bit of a pinker undertone, but these are so good, so worth the money. Moving on to my lips, I made use of the Bite Beauty lip liner. This one is in the shade 40. It's the kind of shade I can see myself using quite often to make lighter lipsticks work. I mentioned this in a recent best lip liners video. I think that these are great. They're creamy but not too creamy, so you can really do quite a precise line or kind of fill it in like I did. I wouldn't necessarily wear these all over my lips, maybe and put a lipstick over it or a lip balm, but they are really nice, and $20, which is quite good for a brand at Sephora, and these are a nice Canadian brand, which I always love to support. And then on top of my lips for lipstick today, I'm using one of the Burberry Full Kisses lipsticks in the shade Nude Blush. Yeah, Nude Blush. I love this. I think that it's so comfortable. It comes in a really nice, like, legit bullet style, and I think that it's just so creamy if you're looking for a lipstick that I wouldn't say it's like 100% full pigmentation. It's like 80-90% there. Really comfortable, super creamy formula and a little bit of gloss to it. This is super pretty. So to set everything in place, I made use of the Kat Von D Lock-It Setting Powder. This is only my second time using it, but it does have a beautiful light mist. When I wore it the other day, I felt like my blush still looked as vibrant at the end of the day, and what I really noticed when I blotted was that I didn't get as much foundation transfer on the tissue that I blotted on. I was testing out a new foundation that I've really been liking too, but I think that this had something to do with it, so I'll need to test it out a little bit more, but knowing Kat Von D, it's going to do a really good job helping with makeup longevity. So I hope you enjoyed this full face of first impressions. If there's any more products in this kind of range that I tested out today, let me know what you'd like to see more of below, and let me know if you haven't tried any of these things and what you think. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat at SamanthaJaneYT, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!